lived in the old hall. He did not even eat in the kitchen with the others. Her papa spent a lot of time in the hall. He slept and ate there, except when they had company in the house, like Uncle James and Aunt Emma, but then they only came to dinner and never stayed overnight. It was only her papa's friends who stayed overnight. Her papa laughed a lot and was very happy when he had his friends staying with him. But at those times, her mamma did not even smile. She couldn't say herself that she liked it when her papa had his friends around him, because at those times he drank a lot and raced the horses over the fells, and they came back sweating. Last time, one poor horse hurt its leg, and they shot it in the yard, and she'd seen them do it. It was on a day when her mamma had gone across the park to visit Grandma. Watford had taken her up into the attics and into her room, and Watford's window overlooked the yard, and that was how she'd seen the horse. She had screamed. Mrs. Page, the housekeeper, had beaten Watford over the head, and she herself had cried all the more because of that. Mrs. Page had then said to her, "Now, we won't upset your mamma by telling her about that horse, will we?" She had replied obediently, "No, Mrs. Page," knowing all the while that the housekeeper was not so concerned that her mamma should learn about the horse, but that Watford had taken her into her room during the time she should have been resting in the nursery. Things were never the same in the house when her mamma was out. The servants acted differently. They walked much slower, and they laughed when they passed each other on the stairs. And it was a sure sign that her mamma was out when Ada Rawlings put her head round the nursery door, for then she and Watford would whisper together, and sometimes they would put their heads on each other's shoulders and giggle. No one giggled or laughed when her mamma was about, yet her mamma never raised her voice. She never shouted like Papa did. But then ladies never shouted. Only men and servants raised their voices. She loved her mamma, and her mamma loved her. Even when her mamma's love wasn't demonstrated by a quick, tight embrace or a kiss in secret, she knew she was enveloped in her love. Yet her mamma wasn't happy. Even when they walked hand in hand along the criss-cross path in the big wood, she knew she wasn't happy, and this hurt her. When she lay awake at nights, thinking her strange and wonderful thoughts, she tried to devise ways which would make her mamma happy. The house was different today because her mamma had ridden out very early, accompanied by old Alice. She had gone to Durham to visit Uncle James and Aunt Emma. The visit was in some way connected with Papa, because she had witnessed the unusual sight of her parents walking down the main staircase together at the early hour of 8:30. Her papa had not been downstairs for over a week, because his hip was hurting after a fall from a horse. But with the aid of a stick, he was descending the stairs. She stood still until they crossed the wide hall and disappeared into the porch. Then she flew along the landing, down a corridor, and burst into the gallery. And from the last window, where she pressed her face to the glass, she was just in time to see her papa handing her mamma up into the coach. When she returned to the nursery, Watford wasn't there. But this she didn't mind in the least, because being left entirely alone was the one compensation her mamma's absence afforded. The last time her mamma had been away for a day, she'd been alone for a full half-hour. It was a wonderful experience, so much so she'd imagined she was someone else. She had just sat and thought her thoughts, with no one to say, "Miss Annabella! Miss Annabella! Miss Annabella!" When Watford returned to the nursery on that particular occasion, she'd been accompanied by her friend Ada Rawlings, and she had pointed towards herself, saying under her breath, "There, what did I tell you? She hasn't moved." And then she had said loudly, "All right, Miss Annabella?" And to this she had answered, "Yes, Watford, thank you." The two girls had then gone into the day room and continued to talk.